Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is November the 27th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. This Monday is treating me really well. I feel like I'm back, even though I know I haven't left anywhere. It's just, I've been battling with a cold. I've been dealing with like so much mucus and gunk. It just feels nice to just be more or less behind or be ahead of that. You know what I mean? So that feels good. I really don't have too much to report on the food corner. It was more or less just Mexican beef and rice bowl. And let's see, work was work. It was a nice Monday for what it was. It's still hectic. We're still in the thick of it, but no surprises there. I'm gonna go ahead and forego my usual startup and just get into the news. Let's see, from the Associated Press, Israel and Hamas agree to extend truce for 2 more days and to free more hostages and prisoners. Israel and Hamas agreed to extend their ceasefire for 2 more days past Monday, raising the prospect of further exchanges of militant-held hostages for Palestinians imprisoned by Israel and a longer halt to their deadliest and most destructive war. 11 Israeli women and children freed by Hamas entered Israel Monday night in the forced swap under the initial 4-day truce, which began Friday and was due to run out. Let's see here. Monday's releases bring to 50 the number of Israelis freed under the truce, along with 19 hostages of other nationalities. So far, 117 Palestinians have been released from Israeli prisons. So that's really good news off the top. You know what I mean? I feel like no matter what side of this conflict you're on, this is super good news to hear. And then also better news is that there's going to be a 2-day extension added on, which obviously that means more Palestinian prisoners are going to be released, and then also obviously more Jewish hostages are going to be released. So that is super good news. I initially kind of thought that this was a deal that was only predicated on the release of Jewish hostages. So the idea that like it's balanced throughout is really good. I know in the overall there was a couple of like blips in terms of like the 4-day truce. Obviously, it was initially set to start a Thursday, got pushed to Friday. Then there was like delays on both sides. I feel like the news kind of painted it more like, oh well, Hamas was like delaying on the release of hostages, and that was like a big stopping point for a second. But everything's good now. But that really did happen on both sides, and I also know that from Hamas they were upset and they had protest over the fact that aid trucks, the amount that was initially discussed wasn't getting delivered. And then the IDF was saying, hey, no, we greenlit it. It just hasn't been, delivered. We can't really control, where they're going, how many there are at that point. At least that was their defense. But overall, everything got smoothed out and worked out. So like I said, this is overall good news. I'm happy to see that. Hopefully there's going to be more of this kind of talk and more, elongated truce, elongated ceasefire, whatever you're going to call it. And just less violence. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I know that the aid that is coming in is great, but at the end of the day, it is just a trickle. It is just not enough, especially where everything is. I mean, at this point, Gaza is just decimated. You know what I mean? But that being said, any kind of peace is good, and hopefully, we're just gonna keep rooting for more of that. Even though I know that Benjamin Netanyahu, all the top brass, IDF, they're saying no, we are going to keep going once the ceasefire is done, once this truce is done. It is strictly contingent on the amount of hostages that get released, and then we'll negotiate, with the prisoners. And honestly, the prisoners situation is a thing that I could just go ad nauseum about and just talk about, because it just is really a fucking sad situation. A lot of these teenagers and the women that have been released up until this point, in some of these situations, you are just being held indefinitely in like a military tribunal situation. So your due process is just up in the fucking air, and essentially you're saying, oh well, we suspect you were doing this thing, and this is what we're gonna say you did, and you're gonna be guilty, more or less. So it's good that these people get to go home. I know that from the Palestinian side, they kind of wanted to negotiate for like higher levels, or I guess potentially more dangerous by the IDF or Israel standard. But I think any release is going to be a good thing and viewed as a good thing. So definitely going to keep you posted on that. There is more to talk about, I guess, on this front, but we're going to take it to more or less a naval aspect, though. Yeah, no, we could say naval, where the U.S. Navy is involved. So, from the Associated Press, U.S. Navy seizes attackers who held Israel-linked tanker. Missiles from rebel-controlled Yemen follow. Now, I thought this was like an update initially on the Galaxy Leader situation, the Israeli-linked ship we talked about last week. I have a burp. It's somewhere in here. Excuse me. There it goes. But this is a whole nother thing. It's a whole new tanker. The Central Park. Armed assailants seized and later let go of a tanker linked to Israel off the coast of Yemen on Sunday before being apprehended by the United States Navy. 2 ballistic missiles fired from Houthi-controlled Yemen then landed near a U.S. warship, aiding the tanker in the Gulf of Aden, raising the stakes amid a series of ship attacks linked to the Israel-Hamas war. Now, much like the Galaxy Leader, this Liberian-flagged ship is managed by, well, it's a different company, but essentially it's Zodiac Maritime. Now, this is a U.S. and U.S. and British militaries and private intelligence firm Arbery said this is like the ship. Like, this is who owns it. But I guess if you do enough research, you tie the ties. It's backed by an Israeli billionaire, yet again. Eyal offers Zodiac Group. So that's more or less the motive and reason why I was targeted. Let's see. Aboard were 22 sailors from Bulgaria, Georgia, the country, not the state, India, the Philippines, Russia, Turkey, and Vietnam. But all of these crew members were unharmed. So yeah, I mean, this is a different situation in the sense of the Navy was able to, push these Houthi-backed rebels back and then apprehend them. So it is not the same as the Galaxy Leader, though apparently there are other ships that are mentioned in this article. I really don't want to get into the weeds about them, but it has kind of just been a full-out declaration on a lot of these ships. And, I'm definitely hearing a lot of return of piracy, the return of piracy, which is weird to me whenever I kind of hear this, because, I think, back in, historical times, go way, way back or whatever. But, no, we're talking, like the 2010s or whatever, whenever, Captain Phillips was, a movie kind of vibe. It's yeah, that was, a thing. And it's oh, yeah, I have to remind myself that Somali pirates are a totally fucking thing, that motherfuckers are just jacking whatever they can, and shit's crazy out there. The waters are open. But an update on the Galaxy Leader. It's mentioned in this article, but I'm just going to reference it from the Wikipedia. The Houthi rebels boarded and hijacked the ship, and it was brought to Hodeidah. So there's an update there. All right, let's go ahead and move along. Taking it to the states of Vermont. I got some loading issues. Apologies. From ABC News. Suspect arrested in shooting of 3 students of Palestinian descent in Vermont, police say. A 48-year-old man was arrested on Sunday in connection with the shootings of 3 college students of Palestinian descent in Burlington, Vermont on Saturday night. Jason J. Eaton was detained midday Sunday near the site of the shooting, the Burlington Police Department said in a press release. Police then searched his home and arrested him Sunday evening. Eaton is expected to be arraigned Monday morning, police said. The students have been wounded Saturday night in a shooting in Burlington, the state's most populous city, by a gunman who opened fire at them without speaking. Now, I feel like for those reasons, they're kind of saying like, "Hey, we're holding off on officially saying this is a hate crime. That we're definitely like, we're doing the whole alleged whatever." And as am I. Got to throw up the alleged whatever. But I mean, also I understand. We covered in a situation with Detroit that shooting where it definitely looked like, oh, this was a Jewish hate crime. But then you go into it, and now cops are saying, no, we're pretty certain that it wasn't that. But we still don't know who the suspect is there. We're still doing the investigation. So I think people are just they're holding out. They're making sure. But this definitely does. It seems like these three students, they went bowling. This was like, on Thanksgiving. They went bowling. They were hanging out outside the home. They had keffis on, like, traditional Palestinian scarves. And it looks like the suspect came up and just shot at them. No words, and then just ran off. But, police did their due diligence. They found this man. They apprehended them. And, obviously it's super sad. It's super unfortunate that this happened. Once again, I'm so grateful that this isn't a situation where I'm telling you guys that the three men were murdered. You know what I mean? But still, being wounded, that's a traumatic thing. That's a traumatic thing for these men. That's a traumatic thing for the family. That's fucked up. The whole neighborhood. That's crazy. For what reason? And I hope that this man gets to at least say his truth, this Eaton guy. Obviously, you're going to fucking pull the trigger on some people, then I hope that you can at least stand on your fucking business and say this shit with your chest, I guess. I fucking guess. But that being said, it's sad to see that. It's sad to see just hate on the rise. You know what I mean? Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. It's crazy to see that shit rampant. I know there was an ex-Obama, I'm getting on a tangent here, and I'm sorry. There was an ex-Obama, or former Obama, whatever the word is, whatever verbiage they want to use here to color this up. But essentially, he was an Obama staffer guy. But you literally have videos of this guy harassing a food vendor. And he's just saying like the worst things. Like he's like saying like it's a good thing. Like I'm glad that like if thousands of Palestinian children had to die, that's fine. That's a good thing. That's okay. It's worth it. And it's like, what the hell? Like it's just crazy that like the brazenness of people right now. It's just insane. And like I don't even want to get into the guts of that story. Obviously, by full means, you want to fact check me, Snopes me out, do tricks on it. I don't give a fuck. Like. Whew. It's unfortunate that this is where we're at. And this is where we always seem to be as a people. You know what I mean? Like, I go back, I'm listening to history shit. I love listening to just the world as it grows and develops. But you just see this kind of behavior, this kind of attitudes about people who are just different from you. And just time and time again. And it's just so sad to see and to like then experience. I mean, I just know as my own experience as a black man, you cannot escape it. You cannot wiggle your way around it. It bothers me that there are people out there that want to, hop up and be on camera saying, I've just never experienced racism. I just don't see it. It just hasn't happened to me. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. It's literally in the air we breathe. Ugh. Anyway, I know, yet again, another tangent. But I feel like we've made it to the end. We have one more thing to cover. And we are going to get back on our music beef shit. We are back on Hall & Oates because I have a little bit of an update. But let me take my break, and then we will close this out. Ooh. All right. From Variety. Hall & Oates Restraining order. Mystery solved. Daryl Hall wants to block John Oates from selling his share of their joint venture to Primary Wave. So they kind of say it all in the title right there. I'm not going to bog you down in the rewind too much. The episode's not too far back. It was literally last week. But we talked about this beef that has come up between Hall and Oates. Daryl Hall and John Oates, of the legendary band Hall and Oates. But essentially, the restraining order, which my suspicion was he didn't want to have any kind of talk and they didn't want to have any kind of arbitration. Well, of course, I'm wrong. I'm a dumbass. And that's not the reason. Essentially, he wanted to put this restraining order up so that John Oates could not go through with the sale that he was saying he was going to go through with Primary Wave. Now, Daryl Hall has kind of said, hey, I don't want to sell my rights. I want to make sure I'm getting what I'm worth, and I want to make sure that it's I guess creative or whatever the fuck. I don't really know. More or less, he has his stance, and he's saying, no, this isn't good. Now, he has in the past, at least, as I've learned from reading this article, he has sold, I believe, a portion of his musical catalog. I think that's something that's kind of left maybe a sour taste in his mouth. And he's like, yeah, nowadays, I wish I knew what I knew now. And I'm obviously paraphrasing here, but essentially he's saying, I want to make sure I'm getting my worth. And if Hall or if Oates sells his portion, that's going to jam my shit up. And as referenced from the last shit, these guys are business partners, not creative partners. So yeah, Hall is really, he's banging his fucking drum on this shit. And I think they are going to be back in court on the 30th. If sparks fly, between the man-eater, singer-songwriters, whatever, then I will update y'all for sure. But yeah, I figured I'd just throw that up on the podcast and let y'all know. And that's where we'll leave it on Monday. Let's see here. I got to plug a little bit. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. If you'd like to support the effort, we are getting close to shout out time. So, if you want to become a newsie today, make that happen today, then by December, I'll be shouting you out. I'll say your name on the podcast, plug a project. If you'd like, just let me know. And then let's see here. Free ways to hit me up. IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Then also, I'm on all of the socials that you're probably on. Feel free to follow me or the podcast. And then hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube. That helps out a lot. Shout out to the new subscriber. I do not know who you are, but you're dope. Thank you. Hopefully leave the thumbs up. That helps out a lot. Hopefully leave a cool comment. That's also pretty dope. And you can do that on any listening apparatus you're, plugging away on. That always helps out the effort. And yeah, hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.